between aggression and over-aggression.
Last year at this track, Zanardi put a move on Brian Herter that was aggressive but highly praised. Last week in Vancouver, Zanardi made another move on Herter, which CART decided was over-aggressive and fined him $25,000.
I'm obviously pissed off because I was leading the race. He turfed me out of the lead, and we weren't even racing. I wasn't racing him.
I think as long as you know what you're doing, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're paid to do.
This was the scene at Laguna Seca just before 6:30 this morning. The fog had rolled in from the coast. It's a common occurrence here at Laguna Seca. The fans who've been camping overnight taking the opportunity to warm up a little bit. But right now the scene is completely different. The sun has come out and we're all set for the Toyota Grand Prix of Monterey, featuring the Texaco Javelin 300. And a fantastic crowd has turned out. They have just wonderful conditions to watch the race this afternoon. A race which should see Alex Zanardi crowned as the 1997 champion. This is Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw for you with live coverage from Eurosport. And Jeremy, we've got a great day's action hopefully ahead of us today.
Indeed so, I think, Ben. It's fascinating prospects really, with Brian Herter tipping the scales his way this time. 1 year ago it was Alex Zanardi with a last lap effort in qualifying to wrest away the pole from Brian Herter. This year a different story. Brian Herter turns the tables. Brian Herter will start on his third pole position, but he's still seeking that first victory.
Well, Zanardi got the fine last week. It wasn't something he was too happy about, nor was his team owner.
Walking with Chip Ganassi as they await the start of this race. Are those sanctions just in your mind, and will it impact the performance of your driver today, Chip, as he tries to wrap up a championship?
I don't think so, Gary. We're focused on the championship. You know, Alex has shown he can win at the road races. He can win on the streets. He can win on the ovals. Today we're going to see if he's worthy of being a champion, and that's the kind of drive you're going to see from him.
A little more pressure, $1 million on the line. Jan Beekes?
Well, of course, there's a lot on line for the first corner. On the left, we've got Alex Zanardi on the right.
So Alex Zanardi then on that front row of the grid with Brian Herter. We'll just have to see what sort of performance he puts in here today. Made a few mistakes obviously in Vancouver last week. He was struggling though with a brakes system that wasn't working quite as well as he had hoped it would. But the question is whether he's going to be as aggressive here in Laguna Seca. The most that he needs is a 6th place, and that's only if Gilles de Ferran is actually leading this race and heading for victory. If he beats Gilles de Ferran, then Zanardi is champion anyway. There have been a few incidents this year. Remember this one in Australia earlier this year when Paul Tracy and Alex Zanardi tangled. Another incident in Toronto this year when Zanardi clouted Greg Moore. It wasn't something that the Canadian was too happy about. But hopefully today we won't see any mistakes from Zanardi. He's just looking to take the championship.
Absolutely right. And Gilles de Ferran is quite a way back down the grid. He's much further back than he wanted to be, in 9th position, a whole second slower than Brian Herter, also on Goodyear tyres.
So let's look at the grid then. Herter on that pole position, a dramatic pole, half a second faster than anybody else. Zanardi alongside, chasing the title. Pruitt's last podium finish came in Brazil, but he was 3rd here last year. Blundell's looking good. Gugelmin, the winner of last week, alongside the man who was 2nd last week, Jimmy Vasser. Then Greg Moore, who's also looking for a first podium for a little while. Michel Jourdain was fantastic yesterday in qualifying. Gilles de Ferran disappointing, as we'd heard. Andre Ribeiro gradually getting the car better. Christian Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy line up on row 6 together. Dario Franchitti disappointed with 13th. Hopefully they've got the car better this afternoon. Then it's Raul Boesel with Bobby Rahal, the two experienced veterans alongside one another on row 8. Then Parker Johnson, who lived around here as a kid, with Gualter Sales. Max Papis and Alonso Jr. share the 10th row ahead of Richie Hearn and Juan Fangio in the Toyota-powered car. PJ Jones is next up alongside Adrian Fernandez, struggling with the Lola. Hiro Matsushita has Roberto Moreno alongside, the man standing in once again for Patrick Carpentier. And at the back of the grid, we have Charlie Neerberg and Dennis Vitolo. Looking at the onboard camera at the moment, with the only other man who could possibly take the title this year, and that's Gilles de Ferran.
And Gilles de Ferran has to either win this race or the very least finish 2nd and get the most points for most laps led in order to take the championship down to the last race at Fontana in 3 weeks' time. It's a tall order for the Brazilian.
Brian Herter brings the cars out along the start-finish straight. Look at what Zanardi needs to do. Needs to finish 7th or better to clinch the cup, but that is if Gilles de Ferran is in front, if he's winning this race. De Ferran needs to finish 2nd or better, as you can see, to keep the championship alive, and that's with Zanardi not doing well here today, to keep it alive to the remaining race, which is on the super speedway in Fontana. And although Zanardi has already won a race on a super speedway this year, that was in Michigan, of course the super speedway by its nature, it's a long race, it's a very tough race on the cars, very unpredictable. He will not want this to go down to the final round.
No, he really will want to tie this up this afternoon, I think, because he had the opportunity to do so last weekend, wasn't able to accomplish that. He'll want to make the championship his first priority this afternoon, Ben.
They're coming round at the end of this lap to actually start the race. Jim Swindell on the start line, and we may well hear from him. He's got a microphone, so we'll go quiet just as they come out of the last corner and see whether we can hear him just making sure that everybody's in position. Now remember, they have to be alongside one another in a nice tidy row on either side of the pit straight as they come up alongside him.
It's kind of difficult to make the positions here because the final corner is a very tight left-handed, almost a hairpin turn, and you cannot go through that corner side by side really, so they have to line up as they come out of the hairpin, and there's then about 300 or 400 yards between that final hairpin and the start-finish line where Jim Swindell has his green flags ready to wave.
You can see the lights off on that pace car. That means they will be bringing it round to the green flag. It's an 83-lap race, quite tight on fuel, so they don't have much margin for error. It'll be around lap 27, lap 28 that they'll be coming in for their first stop, and they can't really play with that very much, except on the yellow flags. But we won't see them like we did in Vancouver last week, coming in after just, say, 10 or 12 laps and being able to do their first stop. It is much tighter than that. So here we go. They're getting ready for green. Let's see if we can hear from Jim Swindell on the start gantry as he brings them round. Well, it doesn't sound as well we're getting much sound from Jim Swindell, so let's call it as it happens. Herter gets the best start. Zanardi slots into 2nd place. And next up, of course, is Scott Pruitt. He was 3rd in qualifying. Mark Blundell is trying to get 4th, but he's being squeezed by Jimmy Vasser. Vasser going around the outside of turn number 2 there. And I think Vasser's got past Blundell. He has, so he's into 4th. But it's the pole man, Brian Herter, who makes the best start.
And Gujamin was the one that lost out there. He was squeezed right over to the inside curb there, and I think lost a couple of positions as well.
So Herter has Alex Zanardi chasing him on the opening lap of this race. The battle between the two of them as intense as ever. And we saw it in Vancouver, all going wrong last weekend. Now then, Zanardi is pushing Herter very, very hard on this opening lap, just trying to keep the pressure on the American. You could see how wide Herter was right up onto the curbing there. They've got some new pieces of curb around this track for this year, and he's certainly pushing it right to the limits of the track.
And coming out of turn 6 there, Zanardi, as you say, using all of the track there. And of course, Zanardi had a little spin there in qualifying. He was trying to get that pole back. There's Scott Pruitt getting very sideways there out of turn 9 coming down the hill.
Yeah, he's pushing very hard indeed to keep up with the top two. Behind Scott Pruitt, you can see the other target car. That's the reigning champion, Jimmy Vasser. Then it's Mark Blundell. He's being chased by Maurizio Gugelmin. So we've got the 2 Ganassi cars up there. We've got the 2 Pac West cars up there. But at the moment, it's the Team Rahal car of Brian Herter who leads this race. And ignore the caption there. You're actually looking at Mark Blundell in the Motorola car, not Maurizio Gugelmin. Mark in 5th position, Gugelmin in 6th. De Ferran made quite a good start because he's made up 2 places from his grid position. He's in 7th place, got past Michel Jourdain. You can just see him there. There is Gilles de Ferran. Remember, he needs to win or at least be 2nd here today. Just looking down at the back of the field there, and Matsushita looks as though he's in trouble. Hiro Matsushita, and it looks as though he's got some sort of problem with his car. We've also got news that we've got a black flag for one of the cars on circuit at the moment. It could be for Charlie Neerberg. We'll have to wait and see.
See who that was, I must admit, that time around, but no change. There is Brian Herter accelerating down the hill, that very quick left-hander there, now the right-hander at turn 10, and a good little margin Herter has pulled out over these first couple of laps over Alex Zanardi. This is, of course, a battle between the tyre companies. Goodyear out in front at the moment. It's been a long time. It's been 9 races since Goodyear has last had a victory, so Brian Herter is leading the way for Goodyear at the moment.
So up front, Herter with an advantage of just 1.3 seconds as he went across the line that time over Alex Zanardi. Scott Pruitt then just about another second further back and just beginning to space themselves out a little bit as they come through that infield section. This was a revised part of circuit a few years ago. Still a very challenging track though, as we've already seen throughout qualifying. This is where they begin to climb quite steeply uphill as they go out through turn number 5 up towards turn number 6 now, and again the track climbs even more steeply now. They really are heading up towards the sky as they come up towards the corkscrew. Then it levels off and then they're hard on the brakes down to second gear and dropping down to about 50 miles an hour as they drop through the corkscrew. Very steep through there and then into the quick left-hander. Brian Herter is the leader from Alex Zanardi and Scott Pruitt with just 2.5 laps completed. Back live at Laguna Seca and 24 laps have been completed. Scott Pruitt is our race leader in what has been a fairly dramatic first third to this race. Jimmy Vasser is in second place. Alex Zanardi is in third, and in comes our former race leader Brian Herter. Herter, who lost the lead after battling too hard with Zanardi, paid the penalty and then ended up dropping right down the field after he took a trip onto the dirt. So he needs to come in. The Goodyear tyres are in a right old state and he has had to come into the pits, and that really means that Brian Herter is dropping down the order. Let's take a look back at what happened. This was the situation a little bit earlier on when Alex Zanardi tried to go round the outside of Brian Herter into turn 2. But as they came out of the corner, Herter then just squeezed Zanardi out. Zanardi get onto the gravel, and Scott Pruitt was able to get past both of them in this incident and take the lead of the race. Jimmy Vasser was also able to go through, and that made life much easier. So that's the reason that you're now watching Scott Pruitt leading this race from Jimmy Vasser. The lead is about 3.9 seconds, but in comes Scott Pruitt for the first of his scheduled pit stops.
Yeah, 26 laps in the books, that's about right. He'll be able to make the conclusion of this race with one more pit stop, but change of 4 fresh Firestone tyres there, a full tank of fuel, 35 gallons of methanol, and there also is Alex Zanardi in the pits. Michel Jourdain Jr. was also in behind him. We're well in, there is Andre Ribeiro coming in, and there goes Scott Pruitt, a pretty good stop. Can he get out ahead of Zanardi?
So this is the battle in the pit lane. Yes, you can see that Pruitt is ahead of Zanardi as they come back out again. Jimmy Vasser now leads this race, remember, and he was between these two before the pit stops. But Ganassi, Zanardi getting it very crossed up there. Cold tyres, remember, as we always have to recall that they do not have tyre warmers in this form of racing, and that means that when you go out on cold tyres, it's all too easy to get into trouble. Our race leader always been squeezed by Dennis Vitolo, but Jimmy Vasser survives the moment, and presumably he'll be coming in at the end of this lap. They are tight, as we mentioned earlier on. They have to stop around this time. There's not much leeway, and remarkably, we haven't had a full course yellow. And bearing in mind all the accidents we've seen so far this weekend, yep, in comes Jimmy Vasser. Now the question is whether he will come out ahead of Scott Pruitt and Alex Zanardi, who've already made their stops. Gilles de Ferran is now being shown as our race leader, and we'll have to see whether he goes into the pits. Jimmy Vasser gets fuel on board, the methanol goes aboard, the new tyres are on. A little bit of a change on the front wing by the looks of things. Gets going again, pretty smooth stop, 13.3 seconds, just misses the tyres that have been laid out for Bobby Rahal, as Gilles de Ferran comes in right up at the top end of the pit lane. They are the last pit there.
Yeah, he's about the last of the leaders now to make a pit stop, but unfortunately Michel Jourdain Jr. had an awfully long stop there, the Peyton Coyne car. He came out in 10th place. He'll move up when Gilles de Ferran stops, perhaps, but an awfully long stop, and it's a great shame for Michel.
We'll try and keep an eye out of the window now, because as the pit stops have settled down, let's see what's happened. And Vasser's come out ahead of Pruitt. Jimmy Vasser has come out just ahead of Scott Pruitt. Great stop for Jimmy Vasser, and it's now put him into the lead of this race, but he's on cold tyres, and Scott Pruitt is trying to take advantage of the fact that his tyres are up to temperature, but he's not quite going to go for it down the inside into turn number 5. What about on the exit? Can he climb up the hill more quickly? Up towards turn 6. Oh, and he has a think about it. Locks over a left front brake, but it's not good enough. And I think Jimmy Vasser has done enough. A brave piece of driving on cold tyres from last year's champion. And he now gets in front of Pruitt. Now, he should be settled down when they come round this time, that these two are in front. We've seen a couple of other guys leading on the pit stops. PJ Jones and then Parker Johnston being shown as race leader. But we've just seen Johnston into the pits. So as these two come round this time to complete 28 laps, Jimmy Vasser is the new race leader from Scott Pruitt in second place. Cross the line they go then.